first day of December 2025. Day of December 2025. And yes, we all started feeling Christmassy. And one sure way to know that you are entering into the festive season is when the gridlock in town becomes super, super hectic. But hey, this is the best way to wake up in Accra and beyond. And I'm excited to keep you company from now till 10 a.m. here on GHOne television. But let's kickstart this morning with some motivation. And our quote this morning is from Wayne Dyer, who says, "You cannot always control what goes on outside, but you can always control what goes on inside." And I'm sure it speaks to quite a lot of people this morning. You cannot control what goes on outside. So when things are happening on the outside and it's quite difficult to handle, you know that you're not in charge. But what goes on inside of you is what you have absolute control over. So you control what gets into you, and because ultimately you really have control over that as well. So that's the word, the quote of the day this morning. But let's learn some English. Let's improve our vocabulary with our word of the day.
Today's word is of French origin. Joie de vivre. It's a noun. The word simply means a feeling of great excitement and enjoyment of life. Let's exemplify it. This December, Lily and her friend Adjoa Loud are going to have so much joie de vivre. Joie de vivre.
And so definitely we're going to have a lot of joie de vivre on the show today. Teacher Rain helping us to appreciate some new words every day to improve our vocabulary. Well, it's a Monday, but we are getting into the Christmas mood. And so let's check out the video of the day. And this morning, we are focusing on the results released by the West Africa Examination Council, WAEC, on the 2025 WASSCE. We're talking about it because we've realized a certain trend. Looks like our students are not performing as they used to. Over the weekend, my alma mater, Presec Legon, we celebrated about 47 students who were able to make 8 straight A's in the just ended WASSCE. Yes, 47 looks like a beautiful number, but for a school like Presec, perhaps Oliver Twist, I would have asked for more. And then some people are asking me, what did you get? It's okay. But let's talk about it because the trend is quite worrying. And a lot of people have also attributed it to quite a number of issues as to why they believe that the students are not performing or did not perform well this year compared to last year and even previous years. And for some of the subjects, realize that the best performance was in 2023, 2024, well, it dwindled. But then even in all the core subjects, we've seen that the performance in this year compared to last year, clearly, there's been a shortfall. Ibrahim Alasan has joined me. Ibrahim, good morning.
Good morning, Joshua. It's a worrying trend, to be honest with you. And I share in the sentiment shared by many, especially on social media.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's where the problem is. Our kids have taken to social media now much more than taking to their books. And people are not paying attention. But that's where we are. For just a little over 56%, right? In fact, a little over 55% to pass for social studies.
Yeah.
Social studies, because if you look at the core subjects, there's science, there's maths, there's social studies, there's English. Social studies, by far, had always been the easiest.
Yeah.
So if you have this lowest pass rate of 55.8%, that should tell you something. Now go to mathematics.
Yeah.
We did less than 50%, 47%.
It's core math, just 48.7%.
48.87, yeah,
48.7%.
More like just 49%.
That is between A1 and C6.
Yeah, that's the pass. That's the pass. The rest is just like, let my people go, right? And then you come to English. For English, yes, at least 69%, right? So English 69%, that's okay. Maths, as you mentioned, 48. Integrated science, 57. And that's why the pass rate for social work has gotten many people asking questions. What exactly happened?
Yeah, yeah.
What exactly happened? Now, comparatively, year on year.
And even before you go on the year on year, you realize that when it comes to social studies, that's where we had a lot of people also failing, getting F9 completely.
Yes.
Like 27.5% of those who wrote WASSCE this year failed social studies, like a complete F9. Like there is no recovery from that.
Exactly.
Mind you, you need these core subjects
to progress.
Interesting.
You need this to progress.
Yeah.
So that's the challenge. And you talk about over 6,000 having their results cancelled because they took foreign materials to the examination center.
Yeah.
Over 6,000 candidates wanted to cheat.
Yeah.
And out of that, a little over 600 of them have their results entirely cancelled because they were holding mobile phones.
I mean, you take a mobile phone to an examination hall.
Yeah.
I understand you want to cheat, but with that courage, knowing what a mobile phone is, knowing that it doesn't look like your calculator, knowing very well that it doesn't look like the paper you are writing.
Yes.
I understand those who would want to, maybe write on their body parts or sneak in some papers, but mobile phones, and what? A whopping 653 of the students.
Yes, have had their results cancelled entirely because they had mobile phones on them. And then I'm sure the thinking is, if you are not going to use it to cheat, if somebody is not going to send you answers to the questions, or you are not going to send questions to somebody to answer for you, what are you doing with a mobile phone in an examination center? Right. So, yes, that's a wake-up call. And once again, the politics have started. As to whose students are this? Are they Nanado students or they are Mohammed students?
As for those politics and these things, I've seen so many. In fact, people even alleging that this was deliberate to ensure that they don't get into universities because of the free tertiary there's no stress policy, and I'm like, really? I mean, come on. There's a fundamental challenge here that we need to address.
Yeah.
Some way, somehow, the mode of teaching and learning is switching, because we're expecting that it would be a lot easier now for students to learn. They have a myriad of options to be able to learn ahead of the class, because there's technology now. It's easier than it was in Ibrahim's time, when to get internet access, you have to go to an internet cafe.
Exactly.
But now you have it in the comfort of your homes. It's easy for you to learn. In fact, we've supplied these students with tablets and all of those things to make.
Unfortunately, Joshua, they are not using a tablet for the purpose for which they were given.
I was alarmed when I heard that
they were using the tablet to watch porno. Yes, they are using the tablet to watch porno. And so, what's the name? The African Education Watch, EduWatch, has actually asked for all the tablets to be recalled, because there is a problem with the calibration, right? It's supposed to be configured in a way that you are unable to access the open internet that we all do. But that was not done, and these tablets have been handed over to the kids. So they are not just on TikTok with them, they are watching pornographic materials. And the Minister of Education said this on the floor of Parliament, right? And so there's a pause on the distribution for the calibration and recalibration to be done, and ensure that they are used for the purposes for which they were procured and provided. Again, as I mentioned, see, you cannot take social media out of the challenges that our students are having.
Oh, yes.
Now, the kids are much more excited to be on TikTok, right?
Because they become instant celebrities.
Exactly.
You go on TikTok and you see these little boys and girls, they have 2 million followers.
Yes.
And for them, that's the achievement.
Yes.
Forgetting that after we go them.
Yes.
F9.
Yes.
Is that what you're coming to use to people's husbands?
That's the question.
Such crass.
So it's a collective responsibility. Yes. See, we all had issues with the traffic light system of education, right? We all had those systems. We had issues with overcrowding and what have you, right? But I'll allow you to go to WAEC, right?
Yeah, because we need to get some answers from Mr. John Kapi, who is joining us via Zoom. And I'm sure that if you are a parent, now you're worried, especially looking at the fact that for those who graduated in 2024, there were a lot of challenges with getting them into schools in 2025. People were worried and all of this. But with these results, I'm not sure any parents will be excited this morning to know that, hey, with my child getting the F9 in social studies alone, a whole lot of them getting the F9 in core math also, what does the future look like? But John Kapi is joining us. He speaks for WAEC. He's the head of public affairs at WAEC. John, thank you so much for joining us. So as it stands now, it looks like clearly from the statement you put out, comparatively, our students did not do well in this year's WASSCE. Really, what's happening from your perspective?
Good morning and thanks for having me. Yes, we ourselves are worried about the kind of results that have come out this year. After speaking, let me just make a little correction. We have, if you look at the latter part of the report, it indicates the number of results that are held. So that the percentages we see right now are representative of the results that we have published so far. And obviously, on the surface of it, it doesn't look good. We are scrutinizing the chief examiner's reports, and then that will enable us to tell specifically, the weaknesses of the candidates that have resulted in this kind of performance.
So would await the chief examiner's report to get to understand exactly what is happening. But I mean, you've been in this business of examination for quite a while. You understand how these metrics work when it comes to the performance of students. And you say you're worried as WAEC because of the outcome, as equally as we are here in the studio, very, very worried. And we have proffered some reasons we believe this might have happened. Social media and all of those things. But then let's look at the irregularities that you recorded. A whopping 6,295 candidates have had their subject results cancelled for bringing foreign material, like you said, notes, textbooks, and all of that. You put in a lot of mechanisms to ensure that we are dealing with such things. So recording these figures as WAEC, really, how do we properly situate this?
You can look at it from two angles. One is the fact that probably the candidates did not prepare adequately for the examination. There are some of them who have this examination phobia. As for that one, I think that's where you would find people like that. Then basically what we expect is these candidates had not adequately prepared, so they needed to have something on them as a buffer. Also, probably because of the lax nature of supervision or invigilation, they feel that they will be able to sneak these things into the examination hall in order to have some kind of assistance. So I would say that if we were a bit more vigilant as the candidates were going into the examination hall, some of these things could easily have been averted, so that, because most of the time, or in a few of the times, you find out that what the candidates have really would not answer the questions that are in there, even though they are related to the subject they are writing. So if we have the situation where the supervisors and leaders are doing a proper search of the candidates before they go in, some of these things can easily be averted.
And in your statement, you mentioned that a total of 35 persons, 19 of whom are teachers, were found to have engaged in acts that compromised the integrity of the examination. And so what was the update on those teachers? Because I remember we had conversations when the exam started, and the invigilators who as well were found complicit in these acts. What's the update on their issues?
So if from the report that we have about 2 teachers right now who are serving time in jail. One of them was sentenced to 8 months. The other was sentenced to 3 months imprisonment. Now, these are people who, were found culpable. They had taken snapshots of questions and posted them on social media. And there was one who had contracted another person to impersonate a candidate. So these are the ones that have been incarcerated. A number of them, from the report that we have indicated, have also been given as serve fines. They've had to pay some fines to serve as a deterrent in maybe them and to other people who may want to engage in this kind of practice going forward. So there are a number of them also that are still with the police CID, the investigators. We are following up to ensure that all of these cases are properly prosecuted, at least by the close of the year.
And I'm sure that as an exam body, you are also looking at how to tighten your systems just to ensure that we crack down on these things and don't record these levels of anomalies in the exam. But then when you look at the trend, for instance, Mr. Kapi, I know you say you'll be waiting for the chief examiner's report, but on the surface of it, you look at, for instance, social studies. In 2022, 71.51%. 2023, it went up to 76%. It came a bit down in 2024, where we had this 71.53%. But in this year, it dropped significantly to 55.82% in terms of those who passed. Have you been able to find out exactly what might have accounted for this? Is it that the questions were too difficult for the students, or really what happened there? Because the drop is too steep for me.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, statistically, we wouldn't wonder why we have this kind of steep drop in terms of performance. But then on the surface of it, from little conversations I've had with the subject officers, we are gradually moving into the new curriculum. And, they are asking that we get into an era of critical thinking and application of knowledge, so that we drift away from the rote learning and having people just chew pass and forget, So on the surface of it, from what I have gathered so far, even without reading the chief examiner's report, it's generally because most of the candidates were unable to apply the knowledge that they have in the questions that were set. There was a little twist, not that we got out of the examination blueprint. We did not also get out of the syllabus the same questions, but this time around, rather than ask you, let's say, what is democracy, would ask you to apply your knowledge of democracy. So on the surface, this is what they think accounted for the poor performance in social studies in particular. I spoke also with the subject officer for mathematics. And yes, they had the type of question that you see, but at the point of the question, you have to apply some findings to other things. And according to him, a lot of them had difficulty applying, the knowledge they have or the responses, the answers they had to other areas of the same subject, So on the surface, this is what we have observed. But when we get the full chief examiner's report, I believe that we'll be able to bring out specifically what would have caused this poor performance.
So if I get you rightly, there was a little twist in terms of not just asking the candidates what is this, define that, but then when it came to how to apply what they have learned, that's where there was a little disparity. That was a challenge for the students. That's what you're telling me now.
Yeah, for now, that is what the subject officer has told me.
Right.
All right. But then, like I said, normally we would wait until we get the full report from the chief examiners, and that would tell us specifically where the candidates' weaknesses are.
So on the face of the statistics, can we say this is the worst performance we've had so far?
Oh, no. Well, what you have here is a 4-year comparison, if you want. I've just stated the statistics for 4 years. So we could refer to other statistics in previous years. But then what I can say also is the fact that if, for example, we are done with investigations out the results, some of these percentages will go up because some of the candidates whose results have been withheld may not necessarily be guilty of the offenses that they are alleged to have committed. So it could make these different. But then, of course, from what we see so far, I think that is a cause for worry, and therefore a call to action, if you want, that everybody, let's get our children off social media. Let's get them to use their phones less or to use them for studies so that they can focus on studies. And later in life, they can choose to remain on social media for whatever.
So you agree that social media has had a part to play in the performance of our students in the various senior high schools as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, there's been the debate about the use of mobile phones by students in the school. They are not really using them for studies. They want to use them to know the latest trends on TikTok and what have you. So really, if we are able to get them to focus more on the things that will enable them excel in their studies, I believe that we should be in a position to correct this kind of downtrend in terms of performance of candidates in examinations.
Mr. Kapi, before I let you go, I'm sure that you've also been monitoring the same social media we're talking about, and with regards to reactions to the results that have been released. And one of the arguments, in fact, two main arguments, one being the fact that WAEC deliberately failed these students to assist government when it comes to the no-fee stress policy, so that at least the numbers will be low. Seeing that on social media as WAEC, how do you respond to that?
Well, fortunately for us, we are apolitical. Individual staff of the council may have their political affiliations and so on. But then generally, we would not bow to pressure from any quarters to make students either perform well or not perform well. Besides that, we, staff of the council, are not the ones who actually mark these scripts. We have teachers, we have subject experts from the universities, from the senior high schools, who help us to set the questions, moderate them, and they are the same who do the marking. Once they finish marking, they also assist us to set the grade points and then to fix the grades. So it is not solely the business of WAEC to determine who passes and who fails, even though in terms of the security of the questions, in terms of ensuring that people adhere to the rules of the examination, remains our sole responsibility. When it comes to the kind of results that come out, you cannot in any way say that WAEC has deliberately on a particular year failed candidates in order to please one government or the other.
And finally, for the students whose results have been withheld, how long do they have to wait?
We are working. Yes, even yesterday, Sunday, some staff were at work. We are trying very hard to ensure that we finish all the investigations and then get the results out by the close of this month of December, so that wherever they want to go with their results, they should be able to.
Well, John, thank you so much for engaging with us. And I'm sure that in the coming days, we'll come back to you, have further conversations on this. That's John Kapi, he's Head of Public Affairs for the West African Examination Council. And Ivy, it's clear that this issue of social media and the misuse of social media, clearly, some way, somehow, we need to put a lid on the situation.
I agree. Not just that, because of the trends, now we have dance groups springing up from various senior high schools as well, right? And then we have ASI related to challenges. So whenever a challenge comes up on TikTok, trust these senior high school students to jump on and post videos. If we are unable to quickly have a lid on the challenges with the tablet, we just might have been aiding those who could not have afforded mobile phones to now even join the fray. And I dread the next results that we might have coming from WAEC if we do not have a lid on this situation. Let's get the kids to be kids. Let's get them to study. And let's pay more attention to the academic work rather than how people worship in our schools. It's more important.
I knew you'd do that, Gama Lizard. But let's get back on the phone lines. Let's speak to Kofi Nkansah, Project Management Specialist with GHOne, Africa Education Watch. And Kofi, thank you so much for joining us. This morning, we are very worried. I don't know how you are feeling about the results that we are seeing.
Yeah, thank you, and good morning to your viewers. Yeah, indeed, looking at the results of GHOne, we are also very much worried. Worried, but looking at also the trend as given by WAEC from 2022 to 2025, we can see that core math and then social studies were the two areas that really wasn't good. From their own statistics, you can say that if you look at 2024, core math, English and then integrated science, the difference in terms of pass rate wasn't so much significant because it's 58 for integrated science, 58.7, and then it's 57.74. And then for English, 69.52, and then university 69. So that much, we can say that, well, it's not so much of a deal. It's not to say that we are okay with it. But the two critical areas is the core math and then the social studies. And 6.8,
right,
then down to 48, and then 71.5, then to 55. That is very, very much significant, and it's a worry. We also know that, these four core areas are the areas that students need to do well in terms of getting the A1 to C6 to be able to move to the next level in terms of education. So that's a worry to us, looking at that.
Right, Kofi. And in my engagement with WAEC, one of the things they stated is that they moved slightly from the usual, what is state explained, to asking the students to apply whatever principle they might have learned to the questions, and that's where the challenge arose. What do you make of that explanation we are getting from WAEC? Because that's what we are told from WAEC the subject heads are telling them now. Yeah,
that is noted, and we've all been craving for moving from the road type to the thinking aspect. But we need to check again and see. Maybe they started with these students because they wanted to push some few things in. Because there's a new curriculum for SHS.
Wow.
A new curriculum. I will still have to check and see whether it's not to say that they couldn't use those applications, but to the extent that it becoming a challenge, maybe we need to look at it, because my understanding is that the Form 1 and I think Form 2 students are fully on board that aspect. But it's also okay if that is the cause, well, then it stands to reason that these students, should I say, were not so much appraised in terms of using that approach. I should think so. But we'll wait for the chief examiner's report. For our side, too, we spoke to some teachers, and especially for mathematics. And part of the claim was that, we've all been students before, and in the syllabus, there are topics doesn't frequently appear in the exams. So teachers, because we study for exam, teachers tend to play less emphasis on those areas. And then from what we heard, I think this last year, a question or a topic from those type of areas came. They're saying, is it circle theory? That the teachers knew those areas doesn't come often. And if it even does, it might be just a question out of that. But this time they claim it featured prominently. So that might also be in the problem. But we're still waiting for the chief examiner's report. That will be the big for us to look at it.
Absolutely.
And if you look at the core area.
Yes. Because I want to talk about the 4 areas as well, because when you realize the trend that this year's performance compared to the last 4 years has been the worst. And cumulatively, from where you sit as GHOne, what do you think is the problem here?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, if you look at the average core subject pass rate, is the lowest since 2018. It's 57.8. So looking at it, we also again want to wait for the chief examiner's report, and then also from there we also look through our own investigation. But we can say that the WAEC man said it, student preparation it's always been a challenge across how are our students preparing in terms of for the exam. And then also invigilation, we need to also take a look at that. What is the relationship? How do the invigilators and the students relate? I don't mean to say they should pamper them, but already the students are tense. So if you also put a lot of pressure on them, you create problems for them.
Okay.
So we also need to look at that.
Very well.
It should be such that we don't allow them to take in any foreign material.
Okay.
But the way we talk to them, the way we engage them.
So the relationship between the invigilator and the student is also very important.
Very critical.
Absolutely. Well, Kofi, I'm sure we'll wait for the chief examiner's report, but when he does bring that out, we'll definitely get to understand exactly what led to this massive failure. But thank you so much, Kofi Nkansa, for speaking to us. He is with GHOne also. Ibrahim Alassan is still here. Ibrahim, so we've heard from WAEC, we've heard from the education think tanks as well.
Yes.
Clearly, there's a problem that needs fixing.
Most definitely. And let's start from the basics. Take the phones away from their hands. Limit the access to social media. Let them pay more attention to the books.
Yeah.
Parents, do same. You can't leave everything to the schools. You must equally be involved.
Absolutely. Ibrahim Alassan, thank you so much. Well, this is still GA Today here on GHOne Television. Right after this break, we'll get into the conversation.
Kwame and his uncle are almost here.
Wait a minute. This one too, your friend Kwame. Wait.
people.
Right.
Why can't we create that environment that no youth would be aspiring necessarily to go to, abroad, and stay there. So these are my thoughts.
Okay.
And the electorates, I think maybe Kwame Nkrumah may have done this, idea of pushing legislators to the people, and I think that's where it all got started, But I must agree that a little bit of engagement with the people, but you need to be more focused on doing Inshisheya, so that Ghanaians will have a better life.
Absolutely.
So electorates, I think, help us in choosing well for the people who lead, because it matters. People are crying after the choices they made because of, one, reality dawning on them, or two, the high expectations they had have not been met. So the onus is on all of us, and I think that electorates get sophisticated by the day, and the politicians also learn to be, more sophisticated. But at the core of it, I think that the choices we make either negatively impact us or positively impact us. And we shouldn't be thinking of just the matchbox we are getting to go and vote, neither the chocolate bars that we get to go and vote, or in some jurisdictions within the NDC, fridges and things like that.
My brother, this man, don't allow him to go there.
You've got Peter screaming.
Just
right.
Catch him off.
Right. But to the substantive issue, one of our key topics this morning, very worrying development from the West African Examination Council. In fact, in the last 4 years, in the core subjects alone, this is the most failure we've seen recorded. Yes, social studies has always been in the pass mark has always been in the 70%. This year we are looking at 55%, a very sharp decline. And the little we've picked from WAEC is that for social studies and core math, where we had hundreds of thousands of students getting F9. We were told that some of the questions were more about application than just stating and then describing, and they feel that's one of the reasons that the students might have failed. But Peter, I mean, hearing that statistically our students are not doing well in terms of secondary school education, how does that sit with you?
I think there is no wonder that there are a lot of failures in our schools. If you consider the time we were students, those days we used to do Form 5, that is O-level and A-level. I mean, the schools were very critical of whatever we did in school. Discipline was there, and we were made to know that only a good education would get you into a better place. And with the O-level, many of the schools did not have the A-levels. So you had to work very hard to be able to gain admission into the advanced level. And we did so. And these kind of malpractices were not very common. You could hear from a few schools, but these days it's widespread. The reason being that money has become now the focus of everybody. And we feel the education is not important. When the student is in school, he doesn't feel that studying hard is going to benefit him at all, because he has seen maybe some graduates with masters and the rest not having jobs, and then you have those who have not been to school driving these Porsche cars and the rest. So education has been relegated to the backyard, and we must be very, very careful about that. Secondly, with the advent of the free senior high school, I believe that is part of the problem we are having now.
How so?
Yes, I think the schools were not good for good studies. I mean, the classrooms were congested, the dormitories were congested, food was very bad, and we had these traffic lights. You go for 1 month, then you come home, somebody would go and come back. So the whole educational setup was disrupted, and they didn't see the need to give quality. What happened was that when the first examination came about, we saw leakages. You just get up, open your WhatsApp, and the results were there. The questions were there. We all saw, and you couldn't understand, and you think that maybe it's fake. By the time the student come out of the examination, you see that the same thing that you saw on your phone. It was widespread. Every subject was out there, and I believe that was the strategy of the government to make sure that people will buy into the free SHS, and they had very good grades. Surprising, even though they had very little time in school. Very, very little time in school, and yet the results were great. I believe
that's why you believe that it was a strategy by the administration?
Of course.
To get the students to have access to the papers, even
exactly.
before the exam?
I believe so. Because how come that these things were there and no action was taken? No action was thorough. And subject upon subject, every subject, the questions were out. And the student wrote the papers and then passed, and there was no inquiry. There was nothing to investigate.
But why do you blame the government instead of the exam body? Because the exam body is apolitical.
The government is in charge of the examination body. Who appoints the CEO or whatever we call it?
Why is apolitical?
The examination council in Ghana. You think it's under a government. Whatever be the case, even if it is not a government.
On the education committee.
Yes, I was the education committee. I mean, whatever be the case, if such a thing is happening in the country, the government cannot close their eyes.
It could be that the past questions helped.
Yeah,
but now they are not getting past questions.
Yeah, those days also, you could see the government would say that we have to buy past questions for students.
Yes.
And so students will only concentrate on the past papers, coupled with the fact that the questions themselves will come out before the examination. So if you have the past questions, the past answers there, you just refer to the questions which have been leaked, and then you go and write. So we all knew that something was wrong, and it continued like that, and nothing was done. It projected the government, and the government came out to see that, you see, the SHS, the students have passed, even better than previously. So now I believe that we are going to the right way, that examinations are not coming out. We didn't see these leakages coming out these days. So I believe that's the right thing. But the schools and the government, for that matter, must make sure that conditions in the schools are conducive for studies. Several things must be put in place. I mean, the teachers must be responsible. I could read here, they say some 35 individuals, including 19 teachers, have been found culpable.
Yes.
And some have even been jailed.
Yes, one has been jailed for 8 months.
Yes, 8 months. I heard 19 have been prosecuted and convicted. Yes. So if this action is taken, I mean, it will curb this kind of leakages. And the students will now sit up and believe that the only way to get good grades is to study. Previously, we had a case where students went into the examination room with knives to attack the vigilators, claiming that the vigilators were so strict, they didn't want them to bring their books and to copy in the examination hall. They had the audacity. They were so confident, and nothing happened to them. It means it was the order of the day that they had a right to bring their books to copy. I think this thing has been kept, and now the students cannot do that, and they are finding it very difficult. So the next thing is to make sure that these schools go by the rules and make sure that conditions are very good for studies. The teachers must not rely on the past papers, and the teachers must not rely on the question papers, to make sure that every school, especially the private schools, they make sure that they look out for these papers, give to their students to pass very well, so that the schools can get credibility.
Right.
These things should cease, and then the government, the Minister of Education, must open the eyes, must set up committees to make sure that these practices do not come up. And I think later we are going to discuss the Wesley Girls Buhaha.
We will get there.
We'll get there. So later we will come. If schools are being strict, I mean, these are, and we want them to relax the laws and do what students can do whatever they want with their human rights, these are some of the results that we can get. Yes, even though our time, those days, it was not mission schools, and yet the laws were so strict. My headmaster will have the scissors. If you had a long hair, he would just meet you and destroy your hair. That was what was happening. And we had to go to their discipline, absolute discipline. And I think we have to go back to the rules and keep all these indiscipline and make sure the students concentrate on their studies and learn very well.
Right. Doc, Peter says he would have to believe that the results we were seeing previously was an orchestration, because at the end of the day, papers were leaking and there was little done about all these things.
Well, let me use this opportunity to congratulate my daughter who completed with this badge. I'm impressed with the 4 A's and 4 B's she got.
Oh, nice.
So hard work pays, I think. At any rate, I think that there's never a final point in educational systems. It's a continuum and needs improvement. And I see this as another wake-up call for Ghana Education Service. One, to improve on the infrastructure bit, and 2, also improve on the conditions of service of the teachers who handle our children. Students by nature depend largely on tutelage, and if the tutelage is not done well, I must admit some of the universities in this country have been also complaining about the caliber, quality of the students that then proceed on to university. And I think that rigor is important, and we need to revisit that and make our educational system very rigorous to separate the men from the boys, to say it in a very simple way.
Yeah.
But more importantly, to churn out people who, even with just the SHS education, can function very well in our country. I still believe that free SHS, monumental, very important, has given opportunity to many who may not have had the opportunity to go to school. And I think that our human capital in total in this country has improved, largely because of the free SHS. And though there's been failures, and listen, every exams come with some malpractices. It'll be nice to work to a point where there'll be almost zero malfeasance. But it's a human institution.
Yeah.
You won't get it pepe. And I must also put on record that the traffic light situation has reduced, or almost to a zero, and shouldn't be too much of a worry for the Amenfi West citizenry. And in addition, let me still congratulate all the students who have finished and have had their certificates released, and wish them well moving forward. The next layer up is university, and I would hope that those yet to write will take a cue from what has happened, and work hard and to perform and to prove themselves as very good students. But in all of this, administrative prowess or administrative work under Haruna Idrisu, am I right?
That's the minister.
The Minister for Education. I heard he was in Kwasco over the weekend. I commend him for that. I didn't go to Nkoko Secondary School, but I commend him for that. Such visitations excite the schools to perform well and better. So in all of this, one, WAEC has to explain more in terms of the exam conditions and why maybe there's even more issues now. Is it that they are upping their checks more, or is it that there's a reason why students feel like going in with material? What's happening?
Well, we had a conversation this morning, and two things basically: that the students most of them come very unprepared, and so they have to rely on extra material to be able to feel like they can write the paper, and also social media taking away a chunk of their learning time. So instead of focusing, and recently the education minister raised that issue, that the tablets that were supplied to them to aid them learn, most of them are using it to watch pornography instead.
And TikTok.
And TikTok. So social media has become a thing for them, and they are focusing more on that than the actual learning.
Anyways, in some jurisdiction, like in New York, there are limitations even on when you can use internet. It's a new thing now, and maybe we will need to adapt some of these. So it's quite unfortunate. They've become more of a consumer than a creator, and that is something I worry about most of the time. Instead of teaching ourselves how to code, we always rather enjoying the production bit of coding. So he has a tall order, a huge task to manage. And as a country, I really think that we need to reorient ourselves in terms of time for education, time for our books, and time spent reading and trying to know. And it's a wake-up call for me and all of us, so that we are mindful of the need to take serious our habits. I remember student aid. Now when you even mention it, some people don't even know what it is. But our vocabulary in this country,
yes.
I think if we should do a vocabulary test, standard test, many will fall short. And we need to up our game. Overall, he also made mention of something where people look at the end in terms of those who have achieved PhDs and how much they are earning. And I think that disconnect also needs to be looked at. The industry needs to marry with our education so that transition in career is quite determined, and people can be assured that truly, if you add on to education, your earning potential increases. Once that is not set, then the aspiration and the dedication to hard work, as Sam Jonah has told us in our face, if you're a country producing more lawyers than engineers, you are doomed. Yes. I respect the lawyers, but as we all know, how many of us have legal cases? Very few. But if we had more engineers, then we can advance. Lawyers don't necessarily help us advance like engineers. That is a fact. We can argue it the whole day, in terms of advancement as a nation. Look at our roads, look at our water problems, look at our Galamsey issues. Amenfi West is not, free from Galamsey issues. Central. Yeah. Are you free from Galamsey issues?
Oh, no, everywhere.
Yes, everywhere. So I think that looking at our problems, we should revisit Kwame Nkrumah's idea of reason for doing tech, K University. We need to really revisit that as a nation. And from there, hopefully, we can do things right.
Okay. Well, Peter, I'll come back and pick your thoughts, especially on the social media bit and how that might also influence what we are seeing. But this is still GH Today here on GH1 Television. We'll take a breather. We'll return with more. Stay with us. This is the Breakfast Review segment, and today my guest in studio, Dr. Adomako Kisi, who is a former member of Parliament for Anyaso Utum, and also we do have in studio Peter Yaokwachiaka, who is a former member of Parliament for Amenfi Central. We've just been discussing the results from the 2025 WASI and all the matters arising from there. But Peter, before we went for the break, I said I'll give you the last bite on the influence of social media on what we're seeing currently with regards to the results from the WASI.
Yes, I think, as Doctor said, there's too much influence of social media on our students in our daily lives. And if care is not taken, it is going to erode further our cultural values, and this a result that we are seeing. Because students now concentrate so much on their phones, and instead of using it to study, they use it to do all sorts of things which would not augur well for their studies. So it must be kept. Either there should be a law that students are not supposed to take phones into their schools. And I don't know the laws now, but all my 3 kids went to Wesley Girls, which is now in the news. My first, second, third, they all went to Wesley Girls. So I know the conditions there very well. How on earth will you be allowed to take a phone into the school? Mrs. Thompson and Mrs. Jokoto. How? You'll not be allowed to take a phone there. Even if that is the one which is going to help you to get AAAA. They say no phones. I remember I went to Singapore and brought a laptop. Those days, these things were not very common. But I was fascinated by the use of the laptop. So I bought one and brought it to my girl in the school. And when I went, she wasn't allowed. She wasn't allowed. I was surprised. Why is it so? I said, but I think they knew the effect of these things. Students didn't have the computers. A single girl had a computer, and they didn't know what was inside the computer. So she wasn't allowed. I now understand very well. So these things... But
the government is providing tablets to the students in schools.
Well, if we are not mature enough to handle these things very well, then we should not. Because you go to America and the rest, where my grandkids are, they are supplied with laptops. But I've never seen them using these things for pornography. And I believe that they can put a code in there. Now, if you go to Australia, they have made a law that students cannot use social media in a certain way. No. They have limited it.
Right.
So we can also do the same thing here. The laptops which have been given to the students could be blocked. It could block all sites. That it's only for the purpose of a study.
So that's what we failed to do before handing the gadgets to them.
Exactly.